why cryptocurrency did not beat inflation. Cryptocurrency, it had one job to do: hedge against inflation. But as anyone who bought into crypto at the beginning of this year will attest, it didn't do that at all. As a matter of fact, it did the exact opposite. As inflation roared throughout the year, some of the most popular tokens fell precipitously in value, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, and many, many others. So what gives? Why did crypto fail at its most basic value proposition? Let's explore that in this video. Before we go any further, I'm Derek West, you're watching Finance Squared, and on this channel, we love talking about all things personal finance, including crypto, stocks, bonds, etc. So be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell if you're looking to get more videos from the greatest channel on the topic on the YouTubes. In any case, for those of you that are living under a rock, what is inflation anyway? Let's talk about what inflation is so we can understand how it should have affected cryptocurrency and how it might affect cryptocurrency in the future. Those of us that are not living under a rock are probably well aware of the effects of inflation. We can see it every day when the prices of everyday goods like gas, groceries, home prices, rent, etc., when they all go through the roof. But is that what inflation is? Prices increasing without ceasing? Well, yeah and no. It's actually quite normal for prices to fluctuate up and down, even with no official inflation involved. I think Milton Friedman, a famous economist, once said that at any one time, only two people really understand what inflation is. What he's trying to get at there is that inflation is a very tough concept to grasp, and very few people really have a good understanding of what it is, let alone what causes it. Far be it for me to be the person to explain it to you, but as I understand it, inflation can be best described as the money supply increasing while the number of goods and services, its value, circulating in the general marketplace, remains roughly static, or those goods and services don't increase at the same rate. Like I said, it's very complex, and much more complex than what I'm getting onto here, particularly when looking at all the factors that cause inflation. A good economist can give you a year's worth of lectures describing what it actually means, but that is the 1,000-foot view. Is there a way to determine a true gauge of inflation? How do we know that during the past year, inflation has gotten out of control? Is it just people complaining about the prices of goods and services going up? Yes and no. Inflation is an economic phenomenon, everyone's favorite economic phenomenon as a matter of fact, that can be distinguished by the rise of prices of goods and services. It is thought that it occurs when the money supply in an economy grows faster than the output of goods and services in the same economy. This inflationary environment affects the inflation rate. To combat this inflation rate, which is generally thought as a bad thing by most people in policy-making positions, monetary policy is one of the main tools that can be used to influence inflation for the good or for the bad. This sustained increase in general level of prices for goods and services, it can be measured as an annual percentage increase. As inflation rises, every dollar you own buys a smaller percentage of goods or services. And to that end, there are many economic measures of inflation. The most common is the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. The CPI measures the prices of a market basket of goods and services that are representative of consumption by urban households. The CPI is released monthly by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and according to them, year over year, the All Items Index increased 8.2% for the 12 months ending in September. Other measures of inflation include the Producer Price Index, which measures the price of goods and services at the producer or wholesale level, and the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, PCE, which is the Federal Reserve's preferred measure of inflation. There have been various estimates for the total inflation for 2022, but experts estimate it could be as little as around 3.5% to as much as 12%. This is because the economy is projected to grow at a moderate pace, and there is expected to be little changes in oil prices. That means that prices for goods and services are expected to rise modestly, or are expected to rise modestly to enormously, depending on your perspective. All that's well and good, I'm sure you're saying to yourself, and you're probably experiencing the inflation at this very moment. Any amount of money that you saved or were earning last year all of a sudden feels like it's not enough to cover your bills or to buy the things that you want and like. All this was supposed to be cured by cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular, but all of them: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. Let's take a look at that next. Can cryptocurrencies be considered a hedge against inflation? The thinking was initially that cryptocurrencies should provide a hedge against inflation, particularly since they were not subject to Fed interference, which some people conclude is affected by political, financial, and other considerations, and not necessarily what is best for the economy or the users of the dollar. Not only that, the supply of some of your favorite cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, well, that supply is purposefully limited, which theoretically makes it similar to many commodities like gold and silver, which have a very finite supply on Earth in any case. Now this helps to keep their prices rising compared to the currencies that are used to buy them. Deflation is the opposite of inflation. Deflation is a decrease in the price of goods and services. This can be caused by a decrease in the money supply or by an increase in productivity. When deflation occurs, people have less money to spend, and this can lead to a decrease in economic activity. You can think of it as the opposite of inflation. the amount of goods and services stays the same or possibly increases. At the same time, the amount of dollars in the economy decreases. So the supply of money gets smaller and smaller, while the number of goods and services stays about the same, making those goods and services more valuable in comparison to the currency used to purchase them over time. If you take that into account, it would mean that Bitcoin is a deflationary currency, meaning that the supply of Bitcoin decreases over time. This is due to the fact that there is a limited amount of Bitcoin that can be mined. As more Bitcoin is mined, the less there is left to mine. This scarcity increases the value of Bitcoin over time, theoretically. Some folks disagree with this. Separate topic for a separate video. But these things put together makes the decrease in the price of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies curious. What causes this? What was the cause of this particular episode, where the inflation in the US economy and the global economy, as a matter of fact, went through the roof, yet and still the prices of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies fell precipitously? How did crypto perform during inflation? The price of cryptocurrency was expected to rise during inflationary periods, such as the period of sustained price increases that we've experienced over the last year. To be specific, the CPI, as collected by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, was calculated to have increased 8.2% year over year from September 2021 to September 2022. The main reason that many people expected the price of crypto to rise during an inflationary period is because crypto was seen initially as a hedge against inflation. The thinking behind that reasoning was that cryptocurrencies were likely to benefit from the increased demand for alternative investment during periods of mixed economic and poor economic performance. And inflation was one of those key metrics that people figured would encourage investors to purchase more crypto. Typically, when investors are concerned about the devaluation of fiat currencies, they oftentimes look to alternative investments such as gold, silver, copper, commodities in general, because commodities usually have demand, and during periods of inflation, when the money is cheap, things such as commodities are valuable, which is a general rule of thumb. But during the same period of time, the period of time when the US dollar was inflating, the value of cryptocurrencies fell across the board. In some cases, they took massive hits. For example, according to the CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index, the price of Bitcoin has fallen 74% during roughly the same time prices for everything else rose 8%, according to the CPI. Altcoin performance was not much better than crypto performance during the inflationary period of 2021 and 2022. Using the same indexes from CoinDesk, we discovered that Ether fell 74% for the same one-year period. For the one-year period of 2021 to 2022, Cardano fell 84%, Chainlink 80%, Litecoin 77%, Lumens 75%, Tezos 82%, Zcash 78%. Those values hurt particularly since a number of those altcoins have lost total value since their inception, meaning that they are not worth what they were originally valued at when they were first conceived. So if you're buying altcoins as a strategy to build your crypto portfolio, since Bitcoin and Ethereum were so expensive, you likely lost money if you bought into some of those currencies when they were first conceived. Why did crypto not perform the way people expected it to perform during the inflationary period of 2021 to 2022? The answer is a combination of a few things. Crypto is still new. Many people are wrapping their heads around the concept of what cryptocurrency is. I know guys like you and me are pretty well versed in it, but that's not the case for everybody. And many more people who are looking for things to invest in simply got caught up in the crypto craze that swept across the world. They were obviously hoping that the purchase would rocket their net worths into the stratosphere. Recession anticipation. People have also been anticipating a recession for a few months now. I won't go into the math psychology of recession anticipation and whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, but during recession, in general, people move towards investing in assets with track records of preserving value and less towards riskier asset classes. As we all know, crypto has had a history of volatility, and when investors expect a recession to hit, they don't want to be holding the bag with a potentially toxic asset inside their portfolio, especially when the music stops playing. There are technical reasons for crypto not doing that well also. You see, one of the reasons that some investors don't see crypto as a hedge against inflation is the same reason that some investors don't see crypto as currency or even a commodity. Some tokens are seen as not having the same utility as other safe havens like gold or silver. Investment safe havens like silver and other commodities actually have real-world utility outside of them being a means of communicating value. Silver in particular has strong industrial and technical applications, such as its use in green technology like solar panels, to even mundane things such as mirrors. You know, because silver is the best known reflector of light. But some of the first wave cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Litecoin and even Dogecoin, well, they're little more than ones and zeros on a globally distributed database. And because of this, it takes energy and effort for them to even exist. Meaning, if times get really, really tough, they might be among the first things to go, effectively making them worth zero. I'm not saying that they will not have any utility in people that still decide to use them, But if that scenario does play out, those same first wave cryptocurrencies, they simply will not maintain values that they have today. A scenario that could play out is, what if there's an EMP blast somewhere and destroys all computers and all crypto mining utilities and rig? In that case, any digital currency that you're holding is practically worthless, crypto included. If crypto is not a good investment to protect your savings against inflation, what is? That brings us to the question, what is the best investment to protect your savings against inflation? There is no one-size-fits-all answer to this question, as the best investment to protect your savings against inflation will vary depending on your individual circumstances. Some suggested investment that may help to protect you and your savings against inflation include real estate and inflation-protected bonds. I'll say you shouldn't count out crypto either, particularly as a hedge against inflation in the future, as investors become more savvy and realize that crypto is a long-term play. And as they get more experience with the asset class and the value that it brings to its holders, crypto should begin to occupy its rightful status as a true hedge against inflation. Cryptocurrencies were designed to act as a hedge against inflation, but as the year progressed, they simply failed to perform in their basic value proposition. And as you know, prices for the most popular tokens fell precipitously in value, and as inflation roared throughout the year, they lost ground to other asset classes. And we know that cryptocurrency is not a perfect investment against inflation. It's still a viable option for those looking for an alternative to traditional stocks and bonds and commodities. Crypto doesn't have the same utility as other safe havens like silver. That said, however, investors will eventually become more savvy. The roads of crypto one day is going to be the type of asset that you're going to want to own if your fiat currency is going in an inflationary crisis. So what are your thoughts? Let us know in the comment section down below. Why do you think crypto didn't act as a hedge against inflation during this tough inflationary period? We're all dying to know your opinion. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click the notification bell, because we got more great videos on this coming out in the near future. And remember, a goal without a plan is a wish. A goal with a plan and no action is a wish list. Take it easy, guys. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.